Hello there, everybody. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jocelyn.
And you are listening to episode 10 of Escapeexpeditions, a podcast where we talk about escape room reviews, recommendations, and other industry nonsense.
Here's the jingle.
Starting route to Escape Expeditions. Continue listening for 45 minutes.
I want to personally thank each and every one of you that has been listening to what we have to say and been engaged with our social media and talking with us about escape games, which is obviously one of our most favorite things to do, because if not, why would we be sitting in our house talking to a microphone about escape games if we didn't love it? We're putting out more videos of us doing individual reviews in addition to the audio-only versions of the episodes. So if you're interested in hearing only one specific review, we are cutting together some of those for you.
I'm going to upload individual pieces of previous episodes as well as like future ones. So for example, there will be an episode for each individual game that we talked about at the escape game, in addition to like the entire The Escape Game episode on YouTube. So if you are looking to only listen to what we thought about the heist, for example, or if you're bringing your brand new friend to go play, you can send them just the Prison Break review or something like that.
I think that is going to be really helpful for those people who are just trying to quickly find things and still want to hear what we have to say, but in a more succinct fashion.
Yeah, so if you go to our YouTube channel, there will be a playlist that will be just individual reviews, which will slowly include all the ones we've previously done, and then the ones that we are doing in the future as well.
Mm-hmm. So, now that we have said that, we will get started talking about the topic of today's episode, which is a full review on the Colosseum.
All right, and Escape the Colosseum is at the Great Escape Room, which is a company that has very many locations, but we played it at the Tampa location. I don't know if this game is available in other locations or not.
I don't think it is. I think it's only in their Tampa location. They have many locations, a bunch of them in Florida, including Jacksonville, Miami, Orlando, Tampa, of course, which is where we went. They have one in Chicago, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Royal Oak, Michigan, Rochester, New York, and others that I won't mention. Needless to say, they are all over the place, but like we said, I don't think that this game is available anywhere except their Tampa location, and it opened fairly recently, like within the last six months or so.
Yeah. So we had actually never been to the Great Escape Room before we played this game, even though they've been around, at least in Orlando, for a very long time.
I think they actually brag that they were one of the first, if not the first, escape game in Orlando. We never really heard very positive things about the Orlando location. Some things that we heard were that there was a game master in the room with you, like not in character, just like chilling, watching you.
Yeah, hanging out.
We also heard that like the puzzles required outside knowledge, like baseball knowledge of like how to play the game and
like positions. We also heard that there was a lot of scavenger hunt, which is our weakest skill, so we were never very keen on adding them to the top of our list. But we heard a lot of great things from the general enthusiast buzz about this game, the Colosseum, so we decided they deserved the benefit of the doubt, and we went to check it out.
Another thing that kind of drew us to playing this game is that not only did we hear kind of enthusiasts were saying that it was good, but also in just the general reviews of the game that I read from not enthusiasts, like regular people, they would say...
Regular people.
You know, like newbies, people that don't really play that often, people that don't spend all of their days off just playing escape games like some people I know. They were saying things like, this is nothing like the last game we played when we went there. And I was like, okay, so there must be something actually different about this game that might be worth checking out.
It's also a 100-minute game,
which was very intriguing.
We've never done a game that was 100 minutes. We did 1 2-hour game, but most of them
are in the 60, 75, 90-minute realm, but 100 seemed like strangely specific.
Yes.
And, you know, Colosseum is not really a theme that you see very often. So all these things together kind of like pushed us to be like, well, we've played everything else in Orlando and Tampa. We might as well go check these people out and see what all the hype about this game is.
Yeah, and also on their website, it specifically says that they don't have an in-room game master and that their clue system is immersive. So that was enough to convince us to try it. And I'm glad we did because it was a good game.
It also leads me to believe that they kind of can admit that their other games that don't have that are not as good. Because if you have to advertise on your website, like, oh, this room doesn't have an in-room game master, and this room has an immersive clue system, and not just someone standing there on their phone telling you, oh yeah, go look at that over there.
Yeah, but they're also expanding their market, I would say, because they get tons of corporate business, and like that is their clear clientele for their previous games, and this game really appeals to like current escape game fans and is like evolving with the industry. So as a company, I give them credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like all of our previous reviews, we're going to break down this game with our 5 categories that we discussed in our first episode of what we think is the most important things in an escape game. So that includes story, immersion, production value, puzzles, and then finally overall experience.
So naturally, first we're going to start with story, which I will now read.
Jocelyn, read us a story.
So the first thing that it says is that there is minimal scavenger hunting. 1 magnifying glass out of 5. Wait, out of 6? 1, 2, 3, out of 5.
If Jocelyn could count.
That's great news for me. Minimal scavenger hunting. Great for puzzle lovers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 puzzle pieces out of 5. Ooh, it says next generation remote monitoring. Minimal guidance with a unique progressive hint delivery system integrated into the storyline.
I feel like they should have a little asterisk on that, which we'll get into later, but...
Yeah. As a prisoner deep under the Colosseum, you await your turn in battle. Spartacus was once imprisoned in the very cells you currently occupy, and he managed to escape. To help others follow his path to freedom, he left a series of clues and challenges showing the way, but made them clever enough so the guards couldn't follow his path. Studying the timing of the guard patrols, you realize you have a 100-minute window, how convenient, with which to make your escape or face the uncertainty of the arena against tested gladiators.
So, essentially, this is just an elaborate prison break that happens 2,000 years ago? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, it's old school prison break with a gladiatorial flair.
Gladiatorial. That sounds like janitorial.
Definitely probably not a real word.
We're gonna mop up some,
blood?
some prison blood in this game. Okay, I digress. So, essentially, it's saying the classic, person escaped prison. They left you clues to figure out how you can escape prison, which is an overdone trope, but all right.
As for the story review, I feel like that is the story of the first 25 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
And not the rest of it.
So, to kind of explain a little, it's a 100-minute game, but they tell you up front that it's a 4-room game and that you have 25 minutes per room. So, they tell you ahead of time, essentially, that if you are not going to escape the first room or any of the rooms within 25 minutes, they will give you hints until you escape within that time frame. So, you're forced to move through the game.
Yeah, which from a business perspective makes a lot of sense because we notice that their games are running every hour.
Even though it's a 100-minute game.
Yeah, so what's happening is like when you're in the first, when you leave the first room and are in the second room, the game masters are in the first room resetting it while you're playing.
Right, yeah, or whatever.
Theoretically.
Theoretically, that's what's happening. Whether they wait till you're in the third room or fourth room to start resetting, we don't actually know that. But what is strange about this game is they say, yeah, it's 100 minutes, but really it's 25 minutes per room. I remember when our game master was reading us the story outside the room, instead of saying what you said, which is that you have a 100-minute window with the guards or whatever, he said, you found out that the guards change every 25 minutes. So, I mean, they just, changed it a little bit.
Yeah, so their rotation is every 25 minutes.
So you have 25 minutes to get out of that room and then 25 minutes in the next room, so...
Yeah, but the way that the way that the game is laid out in that way, it really feels like you're playing 4 separate games that have one connective gladiatorial theme, more so than like you're playing one game with a developing story like all the way throughout.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like 4 different rooms within the Colosseum. So you start in, I guess, like the prison / torture area, and then you like move to like the barracks, and then you move to other places within the Colosseum. But yeah, I also agree that it felt like 4 distinct levels, I could say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you finish level 1, you move on to level 2. Like, it didn't feel like, oh yeah, I'm leaving the prison, therefore I'm entering the barracks. Like, that doesn't really make sense story-wise.
Yeah. A couple of the transitions made a little bit more sense. Like the transition from room 2 to room 3. The thing that you did made sense that it was opening room 3 in a story sense, so that was cool. But I got really confused in the transition between room 3 and 4. And, like, it was a cool thing to do and experience. But as for the story, I was just confused as to why we were in that room instead of the previous room.
Yeah, like, it felt like they were trying to just, like, throw in a cool element to, like, surprise people, which was still fun.
Yeah.
But for us, we're big story nerds, obviously, and we love, like, having story immersion along with puzzles. It kind of lacked a little bit there. But that's not to say that it was not enjoyable in any way. It just felt like disjointed rooms.
Yeah, I think out of all of our categories, story is definitely the weakest as far as this game goes.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. So our next category is immersion. And as always, I feel like we've already kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, but I think the immersion in this game is kind of where it shines. The immersive clue system is real, and I thought it was awesome. They had like audio clues that were delivered to you, but in an in-theme way. So that was really fun and immersive. It did feel a little railroading at times because we knew they were trying to get us out of the room in 25 minutes. Mm-hmm. So definitely there was like a part in the first room that we got stuck on for a long time because of something dumb. But because of that, we needed like a lot of help towards the end of the room because they were like trying to aggressively shove us into the next room. Mm-hmm. So that broke the immersion a little bit. But other than that, like the whole clue system really helped with the immersion, I think.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is 2 different clue systems, because yes. The number 1 was the immersive clue system that they advertise on their website, that it's in theme and it makes sense, and I actually really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And then the second hint system is the game master over the speakers telling you, put this thing in this thing.
Yeah.
Because that is the hint they're giving you to push you into the next room that's triggered by them, versus the other system is more integrated into the story. Even if you're not asking for a hint, you hear, sound cues or other things that is the immersive clue system. But if that is not working well enough, I guess, then the game master just sits there and, talks to you through the ceiling. So some of it is immersive and it was really cool. If it was all that, then I would have thought that the clue system was, 10 out of 10, awesome, really cool. But the fact that we were being basically told step by step what to do just to push us into the next room kind of ruined it for me.
Right, and if it wouldn't have been necessary if it was just a 100-minute game. The immersion breaking thing was that it was 4 25-minute segments and not one long 100-minute game. If they weren't trying to push you from one section to the next when needed, then the original immersive clue system would have worked fine.
Yeah, because it's not like we weren't solving things. We just weren't solving things fast enough. When we got to the end of the game, we still ended up having like 15 minutes left or something crazy like that. It was because we weren't getting out of the first room fast enough that it was immersion breaking. And another thing that kind of is a plus and minus is that there was no timer in the room. It kind of looked like there was a piece in each room that looked like it was supposed to be a timer.
Yeah, but potentially.
But there was no time on it, so I don't know if it was or was not. But we had no idea how much time we had left in each of the games, or in each of the rooms. So there was no way to know if we were running out of our 25 minutes.
Yeah. We could tell only when we were getting clues.
Yeah, right, exactly.
One of my favorite things about the immersion of this game is the sound cues that are used in the game in general. To me, it's very surprising how many games we play that have very few sound cues. Like, it's not a big thing across the industry in general. And this game, when you would do something in one section of the room, you would hear a sound cue for what it was, the thing that you were doing. And you could hear the sound, like, travel through to other parts of the room, like in a surround sound kind of way. That really felt like you were in that actual space and the things were actually happening. Instead of like, I did this thing and then something opened across the room. Oh, cool, I guess it worked. Mm-hmm. So that is a small thing that adds a huge level of immersion to games. And I was really, really happy to see that they did it. It was awesome.
It's strange to see the variety in different games where you have someone on the complete end of the spectrum where the game has no sound at all. And it's just, like, strange, like, you're watching a movie with no music.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, kind of unsettling. And then there are games where it's just, like, one continuous sound loop playing throughout the whole game, just, like, background music, which is, you know, good and fine. But when you actually sound design a game and, like, build the sound elements based on what the players are interacting with and what they're doing, that just completes the whole picture for me and like makes it so much cooler.
And it's essential. It's like watching a movie with no sound, or like you were saying, with no music. It's a smaller thing than some other things in games, and I think if more designers considered sound as like a tool that they could use, it would improve the industry overall.
Absolutely. And an example of this would be like not just, you know, you're triggering something over here and then you hear like the pop of a magnet across the room. What we mean is like maybe the prop is supposed to look like an old rusty chest or something, and you're opening it up and you can hear like a creaking, like scary sound or something, or there's water flowing through a pipe and you actually can hear the water flowing from one end to the other. Even if there's not actually water flowing, it just like is making you feel like everything is real and that the space is authentic.
Yeah, it really helps sell the environment.
Right.
Yeah.
And that leads us to our third criteria, which is production value.
I thought the production value was great in this game. It was beautiful to look at. I wanted to touch everything. Really felt like a Colosseum, or like different rooms in a Colosseum. And whatever the last room was.
Yeah, and it had, you know, theatrical lighting and cool props. It was really different from what I was expecting from the Great Escape Room, from what other people have said. I was expecting, you know, a kind of bland room that maybe had some Colosseum elements to it, but it really felt like they were trying to make it as authentic as possible.
Yeah, and they did a great job. It looked great, it felt great, sounded great, and I think each space felt different than the last, which is great from a production value standpoint, bad for like how segmented the game felt. But it really felt like you were traveling to different parts of the Colosseum, so that was really cool. It was cool to start in like it says, like the prison thing, and then also go into completely different chambers like along the way.
Yeah, I would agree that the production value was really good, and what really sold it for me was the addition of the soundscape.
Yeah, which is a great point. It was probably average for a good game.
Which still means that it's good.
Right, exactly, but average for a good game production value. But with the addition of a soundscape, it really made the entire game feel more authentic, which in turn makes the production value feel better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my final thoughts on the production value are, if you have been to a game at the Great Escape Room and you were not overly impressed, you should still give this one a shot because it is far and beyond what I expected from them.
Yes, definitely.
All right, so what do you think about the puzzles? That's why people play escape rooms, right? To do puzzles.
That's what I've heard, yes. There are a couple that are sticking points for me, but overall, I did like them.
Yeah, overall, we had a good time figuring them out, and it wasn't overly challenging for the most part. I think it was a mixed bag in terms of things that were unique versus things that we have seen before. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't get like super overly excited about this game having unique puzzles because some of them just weren't, which is not a bad thing. There are people out there who haven't played 215 games.
Right, of course.
I thought that it was a good mix of like physical challenges as well as more cerebral logic type.
Yeah, it had a physical challenge that we have seen many, many different versions of. I have not seen anywhere the way that they did it here, so that was really cool, different to see. There was one puzzle in the first room that I still have no idea how you were supposed to figure out what the answer is.
Yeah, this was one of the ones towards the end that the game master had to just go over and say, actually, just do it this way.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean all the puzzles were like that.
No,
there
absolutely
were
not.
Plenty of fun puzzles in the game. It's really hard to not review it as 4 separate games.
Yeah, the puzzles were so different in each room, so it really felt like 4 distinct spaces. I thought the puzzles were the most fun in the third room.
I would agree.
In my opinion, but that's only because the first room we kind of like got stuck and then we got shoved through. And then in the second room, we were stuck because there was like a little bit of a leap in logic. At least the connections you were supposed to make were not overtly clear.
Yeah, but it was just a small one, though.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's something that you could easily figure out if you were staring at it for long enough. But when you only have 25 minutes to figure out and you're stressed...
Yeah, we kind of had to, like, talk ourselves into, oh, this was why this is this way.
After the fact. Because
yeah.
when we were playing the game, we were kind of like, okay, I guess this is how you're supposed to do it. But then after some thought after the game, it made a little bit more sense. In the time crunch of the situation, it was a little bit more difficult to make those connections.
Yeah, the game overall needs like some fine-tuning in the puzzle section. For the most part, the puzzles are fun. They just need like to clue you a little bit more on specific things to help, I think, which could be done through their immersive clue system, probably.
Yeah, I agree. As the game went on, we kind of found more of a rhythm, and the third and fourth rooms went a little bit more smoothly. Mm-hmm. Culminating into the fourth room where all of the puzzles were very layered and detailed, which didn't really happen in the first or the third. The second room was kind of similar in terms of layered logic and using multiple elements for one thing. Yeah, I am finding it really difficult to review it as a whole because it did feel like 4 such distinct experiences.
I think also because it wasn't like you were bringing information or things that you did or pieces from one room to another. It was like you play this 25-minute escape game and then you go through the door and then you play another 25-minute escape game that is also in a Colosseum. Like that's really what it was.
Because in order for their business model to work of being able to reset half of the game while there's still someone playing the last half, you can't have people bringing elements from one room to another because then it won't be there when you need to reset it.
Right, of course, which makes complete sense for why they did it. I just mean that's why it didn't feel like one game.
Right, exactly. I was trying to add on to your point that inherently in the way that they run the game, it's difficult to connect it all together puzzle-wise because you just can't.
Personally, I think it would play way better without the 25-minute cap on each room.
Right, but then they would only be able to do like maybe 2 or 3 slots a day, and that is just not feasible.
I wonder if it was designed originally to be played as 4 separate games or not.
I have no idea. There's no way to know that.
Yeah, just food for thought.
My thoughts on having a long game like that in general are kind of mixed because it's really hard to keep someone's attention span for that long. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's a plus for this game because once you move on to the next thing, it's like, okay, this is a new challenge. Like we'll reset the clock at 25 minutes and we'll start over versus like a longer game where you have a family with like younger kids or people that like just can't concentrate for a whole 100-minute block. It can become frustrating as a player and also frustrating to watch people get disengaged.
Yeah, and also if you fall really far behind, then you have no chance basically to catch up in a super long game. Like if you fall behind really early, you know what I mean? There's versus this game where it was like hitting a reset button every time.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing, I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting, I would say.
Yeah, it's the first time we've ever encountered something like that. And, you know, for us, we like to have a nice, flowing, immersive story and all of that, which we've said over and over again in all of our other reviews, which is just not the experience you get in this game, but I guess it's not necessarily a bad thing depending on what type of player you are.
Yeah, and we did have a lot of fun in the game, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Right, yeah, but for our reviews purposes, we're trying to, like, nitpick at things. So
of course.
We can have a hearty discussion about it.
Is this discussion hearty?
I don't know. I don't know why I chose that word.
Makes me think of, like, eating breakfast.
Stew. This game is a nice stew of
romance.
Controversy. Romance? Did you say romance?
No, I said Romans.
I thought you said romance.
I'm assuming there were Romans, right?
Didn't you take world history in high school?
Maybe once or twice.
One time on an AP test in high school, I wrote that the Romans had mighty might. I got a 5.
That's good, you guys. A 5 is good.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know. Anyway, we went on a kind of a tangent there. So, we were talking about the puzzles. Do you have any final thoughts about the puzzles?
No, I mean, in summary, I think they need a connecting string through all 4
pieces.
Doesn't have to be individual puzzle pieces, but I think, like, something to build upon that connects them would really help the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and overall, we enjoyed the puzzles.
Yes.
There were some places where we stumbled, and the 25-minute time limit was kind of a hindrance for parts of it, but overall, we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure. Next is overall experience.
I have thoughts about the overall experience.
Yes, what are they?
So...
This is a podcast where you talk about your thoughts.
So, I think that going into it, I had, admittedly, fairly low expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this game exceeded my expectations, which, because they were low, I don't know if that means a lot. But overall, I enjoyed the game. There were some interesting things about it that could be very easily tweaked to make it better.
Yeah, I feel like they just needed, like, someone to go in and tweak a bunch of small things, and it would be a great game.
It would be a great game. Like a game that we would recommend to people going to Tampa.
Like, right now, it is a good game, and I would put it on your Tampa list for sure. I'd probably put it somewhere in the middle, though. Tiny, small changes would really make it a great game.
Yeah, and I think that the juxtaposition of the really cool, immersive clue delivery system with the game master talking over the speakers, telling you word for word what to do because you need to move to the next game.
Next game, haha. Next room.
Next room. I thought that...
It was problematic.
Yeah, I thought that was problematic, exactly.
Hashtag problematic.
If I take that out and just review the game based solely on the puzzles and the set design, which is, like, at the core of an escape game, like, what people go to do to solve the puzzles and to be immersed in a cool story, I thought that this game was good and achieved that.
Yes.
We are obviously harsh critics when it comes to certain things, but overall, I enjoyed the experience, and
I would go back if they open more
like this.
Games like this, yes. Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, like I was saying, I think that this game is good, and I would recommend if you live near the Tampa area, it is worth playing, absolutely, but with the caveat that it will feel like 4 individual games and not one giant game.
In addition to all of these thoughts that we have just on the game itself, I want to mention about the experience with the customer service at the Great Escape Room. I'm not sure if it's because they had new people training that day or something, but it was kind of a strange interaction with the staff there, where we would ask them a question about, like, oh, how did this work or whatever, and they had, like, no idea, which for us as game masters is, like, how do you not know?
It's hashtag problematic.
Hashtag problematic. Like, you're watching a game for 100 minutes, you should know every puzzle in that game, and you should know how it all works and what are the solutions to everything if I ask you right now without you having to look it up.
Yeah, to be fair, the guy that we asked said that he was new, so maybe he was, But then he referenced someone else who was there.
Who seemed like she was maybe his supervisor or the person training him. And she also didn't know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how are two people watching this game? We literally just were working on the puzzle that we had asked a question on. And they just really kind of like dismissed our question, first of all. Like, why are you asking this? And then answered it, but kind of like, maybe it's, I don't know.
Yeah, we were just asking what the solution to a particular step of something was.
Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh because, like, as someone who has run a lot of games, like, you could ask me right now, like, what was the code for that one box in that game I ran, and I would still probably be able to tell you that. You watch this people solve those puzzles over and over again, you should know what the answer is. You just should. Yeah, and this was obviously our first and only experience with the Great Escape Room. It might have just been an off day, might have been someone new, might have been two new people. I don't know, but we can only say anything based on our personal experience, obviously.
Yeah, so overall, I would play the game if you're in the area. Just embrace your gladiatorial side.
Yes.
And enjoy the Roman experience. And I think you'll have a great time. It is a good game, but it will feel like 4 separate games. And
minor leaps in logic, but not terrible.
Yes. And the staff may or may not know the answer.
What they're talking about. If you ask for a clue, be prepared for, I don't know.
I mean, during the game, all of our clues were good. It was just afterwards.
Right, yeah. The people who came to greet us afterwards after we finished the game and were like, you know, the people going to take us to get a picture or whatever.
We didn't ask for any clues during the game. They were all
unprompted
to us, which we're big fans of, you guys.
No, we're not at all. That's literally the worst. If there is a group of enthusiasts, clearly people who have played escape games before, not even people who have played a lot, people who have played at all, you should give them the option of asking if they want unprompted hints or if they don't.
Yeah, and if you want to give them a clue, just be like, hey, do you guys want a clue? And then they'll say yes or no. And sometimes they'll say, do we need a clue? And then you say, yes, clearly, because I am asking you.
But see, I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that because that is immersion breaking in itself.
Of course. It depends on your clue system, though.
Right.
It's also immersion breaking to be like, have you looked to your left?
Exactly. I mean, there's...
the giving the clue over the voice of God method in general is immersion breaking.
Absolutely, yeah.
But that's the way it's done usually.
But the way that this game is run inherently doesn't give you an option of whether or not you want unprompted hints or not.
Right,
You're either going to get them or you're going to get them. Those are your two options.
To be fair, I was completely okay with the immersive clues that we got. It didn't feel like they were being jammed down my throat, and they felt like they were timed pretty well, and they weren't like screaming the answer at me. But it was the other ones that were. But
what I liked about it is that I couldn't tell if those immersive clues, which obviously were being intentionally vague about what the immersive clues were so that we don't spoil it for you, but I still don't know if the game master was triggering those or if those were just part of the soundtrack of the game that just happened at a certain time.
Yeah, and if they were the way you were supposed to solve things or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it felt that immersive.
Which is great. Hats off to them for that.
Yeah, so I really liked it. Overall, I feel like we have a lot of thoughts about this game, but that's why we decided to spend an entire episode talking about it, because there were just so many unique things about it to discuss.
Yeah, and it was really long. We had to review 4 games in one.
Exactly.
Okay, so before we end the episode, we want to talk a little bit about another thing that happened at the Great Escape Room.
Which was very strange. Very strange indeed. And I guess I can talk about it?
Sure.
So, the Great Escape Room in Tampa was, at the time that we played the Colosseum, was offering an extremely cheap opportunity to beta test one of their new games, and we had no idea how long this had been going on or what the game was, but we were like, $7 game? Of course!
Yeah, we just clicked book. It was a bad decision.
Yeah, so Jocelyn was like, they're beta testing a game and it's only going to cost us $14 for both. Do you want to do it? I'm like, is it only 15 minutes? Is it only half an hour? She said, no, it's a whole 60-minute game. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I want to play a game for $14.
Right.
So we just went ahead and booked it without thinking. And also, since we were going to drive 2 hours all the way to Tampa, we figured that we would play 2 games because that makes our 4 hours in the car worth it.
Mm-hmm.
However, we are in the car on the way there, and I asked Jocelyn to tell me what was this game that we were beta testing. And I have separate thoughts on asking customers to pay to beta test a game, but regardless.
It's a whole episode.
That's a whole other episode. So she started reading the description to me, and she watched the promo video for it on the website, and I was like, we have played this game before.
Yeah, and we were like 50-50 on if we had played it before, and then...
No, I knew. I knew we had played it before.
Right, but then, because I was like not really watching the video, and then I watched the video in the lobby when we were there, and I was like, okay, this is a game that we have played for sure.
So this game is called Escape Artist, and it has nothing to do with the Orlando and Sanford venue that's called Escape Artists with an S.
No relation.
But this was a game at Get Out in Orlando, which was kind of near the Universal area that recently closed. And we knew that they had a game called Escape Artist. We knew that there was Houdini involved and like it was in that kind of realm. So when she started reading this description to me, I was like, this sounds like literally the exact same game from Get Out. So I thought, well, I mean, if it's the same game, even if it's cheap, I still don't want to play it. We've already played it.
Yeah, and then we realized that it was a public game and that there were other people booked into it probably because it was so cheap. There were other people booked into the same slot as us, and there was no way we were going to play a game that we had already played with people who had not played it before.
Yeah, and it's not like it was a game that we were very interested in playing again, because there are some games that we have played multiple times, but this one we played fairly recently, within the last year, so there was no reason that we wanted to spend money to play it again. So when we get to the venue, we told the person that greeted us, we said, hey, so we booked this game for after the Colosseum, and we're pretty sure that it's something that we've played before, so would it be possible to get a refund or, to get a credit or whatever, because some places don't do refunds. She said, no, it's impossible that you've played this game before because it's brand new and it just opened today.
I was like, no, you're wrong.
I was like, I said, well, there was a venue in Orlando called Get Out, and they had this exact same game. At least it sounds like the exact same game, and it had the same story and the same video. She said, no, it's impossible that you played it, and it's impossible that the video is the same, because this game is brand new to us. I said, it's brand new to you.
But it was a bot game.
It was a bot game, and the staff had no idea. They were clueless. Which is obviously not their fault.
Yeah, of course, they didn't know.
That no one told them that that the owner had purchased this game and just installed it in their room. And they said, okay, I guess, but after you guys play the Colosseum, you can take a look in the first room of the game, and if it looks like the same game you played, then we can give you a refund and you don't have to play it. And I was like, we don't need to look in the room. We know it's the same game.
But we were like, okay, sure.
So long story short, we played Colosseum, we looked in the room, and I said, yeah, this is the same game. And then I even said, it opens up into this, 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 and this, right?
And you do this, this, and this, and this.
Yeah. And the guy, wide-eyed looked at me. He's like, oh my God, you have played it before. I was like, yes! We told you that. So the whole point of telling this whole story is that if you ever played at Get Out in Orlando and you played the Escape Artist Houdini game, it is an exact replica, probably even the same props and things, in the Great Escape Room in Tampa.
And it is soon to open in the Great Escape in downtown Orlando as well.
Really?
Yeah.
So if you already played Escape Artist, you don't need to play it again. It's the same game.
I mean, if you really loved it and you want to play it again, sure, but make sure you're aware of that situation before you go.
Right, so I thought that was just a strange interaction we had with them that they like didn't believe that we had played
I
it
just
before.
think that if you're going to open a game that was open in a market that's close to yours, at least your staff should be aware of that.
Right, because we might not be the only people that run into this situation where they're like, oh, cool, a new game. Sounds fun. Let's go play. It's so cheap. And then they book it and they get there and they're like, what the heck? Like, this is the same thing I've already played.
In my opinion, they should have at least been made aware of the potential that there could be people who have played before. It's not like it opened, on the other side of the country.
Right, or even in a different state. It opened an hour and a half away.
Yeah, especially for the one that will be opening in Orlando.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, just as a disclaimer,
be aware that this is happening.
That's the same game.
All right, do you have any other final thoughts on the Great Escape Room Tampa or the Colosseum or Escape Artist?
I think it's great that they are opening bigger and better games, Escape Artist included. Escape Artist is a pretty solid game. It's definitely better than previous Great Escape Room games.
From what we've heard.
I am sure, yeah.
Right. So it is good to be seeing them move in that direction.
Yeah, and even if they're buying games and opening them, but that doesn't mean that they're not providing a better product for people to play. So that is great, and great to see that they are moving in that direction.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious to see what happens next. I guess maybe they'll open Origins.
Right, the other game that was at Get Out.
Yeah.
We shall see.
The good news is that if you missed out on playing Get Out's games,
they did not disappear.
You will still be able to play them soon, so that's cool.
So run to go play it in Tampa, where it is now currently only $10.
We didn't play it during the beta, so I can't tell you how their beta experience is or anything. So maybe wait until it's open. I always prefer that.
So now that we have spent all this time talking about the Colosseum and the Great Escape Room, we want to tell you about a very exciting episode coming at you next week.
We recently played at the Exit Games Florida with their debut game, Servants of Slight.
Go play! Go play! Go play! Right now!
If you're in your car, just stop driving to wherever you are driving.
You're not gonna come. Call your boss, tell him you're not going to come to work, put in your GPS, say, hey Siri, get me directions to the Exit Games Clearwater, and go play right now.
Yeah, incredible game, incredible experience.
Amazing owners.
Yes, but we're not going to talk about it because next week we have a whole episode of our complete review of their 90-minute escape adventure and an interview with Josh and Tay, the owners. So be excited for that.
Yes, and also coming up next month, we are taking a road trip to Texas, and along the way, we are going to be stopping at 13th Gate Escape, which is unequivocally one of the best, if not the best, escape room venues in the world, at least what we've heard.
Yeah, we have not been, and we are so excited.
We're so hyped
to play a few of their games and tell you guys all about it.
And we also have some fun guests that are going to be joining us to play those games. Maybe we can convince them to tell you their thoughts, but I will not spoil who it is.
Yes, if you have played at 13th Gate, let us know which games we cannot miss. Obviously, we're going to play Cutthroat Cavern.
Obviously.
But other than that, let us know if you liked Tomb of Anubis more, or
Agent 13.
Or if you've played the brand new Asylum game. Is
Yes.
it going to be way too scary for Anna?
Is it? Okay, because it says fear factor extreme. And for someone...
Extreme!
Yeah, someone like me who, jumps if, my cat makes a noise in my house. If you think I'm going to be crippled with fear the whole game, just let me know. That would be great.
But also, if you think that it'll be worth the crippling fear.
I mean, 13th Gate is originally a haunt venue, yeah? So I feel like...
Yeah, that means it's probably awesome.
Right. Which makes me lean towards wanting to play it, but Fear Factor Extreme kind of a little bit freaks me out, absolutely.
Yes, so be excited for that. We are also planning a Game Master Stories in November as well.
Get excited for our cool stuff coming up in November, and be sad our Halloween decorations are going to be gone.
I was just about to say that. But be excited, because in December, maybe we'll have Christmas decorations.
Aww,
okay.
Can we not have fall decorations in November?
We could keep the pumpkins.
Stay tuned for our maybe seasonal decorations.
Okay, we need to end the episode. It's been going on for so long.
People like listening to what we have to say.
Of course.
If you have stuck with us for this entire episode and are listening to us argue right now if the episode is too long, thank you, listener, because this episode is for you. Yes, you.
And even if you have not stuck around, the episode is still for you. Okay, if you want to find us on social media, you can at ESC Expeditions on Twitter, at Escape Expeditions on Instagram. There's also a Facebook page. It's Escape Expeditions. You can email us and let us know which 13th game to play at
escapeexpeditionscontact@gmail.com.
Is that the only one you know?
Yeah, I know all of them. You were just on a roll.
Be sad that this is probably the last spooky jingle.
Aww.
But be excited for the future Christmas one.
Okay. I'm going to say bye now.
Okay.
Bye.
Have a good week.
Your destination is on your right. The end of this review.